In ancient Greece, a poor young man discovers he is the son of the powerful Zeus and destined to save the world from a demon army. The story begins with several demons being chased by some soldiers and flee to a nearby town. And guys, help us grow our channel by hitting the like button and subscribing to our channel. We have a lot more exciting content coming up that you don't want to miss. So give it a thumbs up so we can beat the goal of 153 likes on this video. And now let's go. In the town, young Heron takes a huge amount of ore to trade, but because he is a bastard, everyone despises him. And he gets only 2 coins for his work. Distraught, he goes to his mother who comforts him by saying that they will manage. Suddenly, the soldiers appear, and the Grand Archess named Alexia asks if anyone has seen any demons there and warns everyone to go to their homes since the demons had no mercy. Everyone runs in fright, but Heron and his mother stay behind to help an injured old man named Elijah. Heron goes for water to clean the wound when he notices a woman's body in the water. He goes to her to help when he realizes that she was dead and is attacked by the demon that the soldiers were hunting. He quickly grabs a knife to defend himself, but the demon throws the knife away. The two begin to fight, but the monster was more agile and stronger and knocks Heron down easily. Alexia shows up saving Heron and attacks the creature with a spear, but he flails away, and the two begin a battle. Even with Alexia hitting him several times with her skill, it doesn't seem to have much effect on the demon, who holds her sword in one of her blows and throws her away. He is about to kill her when Heron attacks him with a torch and throws him into the water. But when Heron looks at Alexia for a second, the demon disappears. After making sure he wasn't hurt, she sees a trail of blood from the creature and goes back to the hunt. While the townspeople were fleeing, Alexia attacks a man who was walking and takes a leaf that was with him. A map. Later, Heron, along with his mother and old Elias, sees a crowd gathered. Alexia, with the captured man, tells everyone that they were being attacked by monsters like that and stabs him with a spear of fire, making him reveal his true appearance. Alexia then puts an end to the demon while another watches from above. At Heron's house, he wonders how such a thing could exist, and Elijah tells him how it all began. After the gods defeated the Titans, the family of darkness, and the last Titan cursed them through his blood, the giants were born, monsters with the purpose of destroying the gods. And so, a war began, lasting years, with both sides falling, but neither yielding victory. Until one day, Zeus convinced 2 giants to fight on the side of the gods, causing them to finally defeat all the giants. Then, their souls were collected and locked in an urn, ensuring that it always remained closed so that evil would never return. As the ages passed, one of the giants eventually returned to the surface and was discovered by men who were corrupted by the evil in that body, and began to swear allegiance to the giants and eat their flesh, thus giving birth to a new family of darkness, the demons. Heron questions why the gods allowed this to happen, and Elijah explains that humans would be useless if the gods always solved their problems. After the story, the old man gives them food, as he used to do. Later, after they burn the demon's body, Alexia thanks Heron for his help, explaining that, thanks to him they found a map of the demons and invites him to join in the battle against the creatures. But he refuses since he sees no point in helping a people who have always despised him. He then returns to his home planning to flee the city with his mother, but she explains that they cannot leave as they would die and begins to say something about the boy's father when she is interrupted by the villagers. They explain that they suspected her of being a demon ever since she appeared in town. A cloud has been hanging over her and they had to test it with fire. Heron fights to protect his mother, but she herself decides to put an end to it by burning her arm to prove her innocence. After the soldiers leave, Elijah arrives, saying that they should prepare for the war to come, and tells Heron to climb to the top of a mountain where he will find a special or capable of forging a sword like no other. And so he sets off for the mountain, when a creature appears behind Elijah, but we soon realize that it was the god Ares, and that the old man was none other than Zeus in disguise. Although it was against his own law to help mortals, he helped Heron by guiding him so that he could lead the humans in the war. We see the past when Heron's mother was in childbirth and was a queen, quite different from the class she currently lives in. She had had twins, one son by the king and the other by Zeus, the boy Heron. The king, realizing the betrayal, tries to kill the baby, but Zeus descends from the sky in the form of an eagle and protects his son. When Heron wakes up, and we understand that he had dreamed the event. With difficulty, he finishes climbing the mountain, and later takes the ore to Elijah, who we now know was Zeus in disguise. Heron comments about having had a meaningless dream, and Elias explains that dreams are brought on by creatures called Anaris. Later, Heron goes to his mother and explains that he dreamed that she was a queen. Without having much choice, she confesses that she had been married to King Periander for many years, but that shortly after she was married, she was noticed by a god and unbeknownst to her he appeared disguised as a king. This left her tormented for some time, as her husband was sometimes kind and loving, and sometimes aggressive. She thought he was bipolar, but soon realized that the gentleman she was sleeping with was not her husband, and after confronting him, she discovered that she was in a relationship with the powerful Zeus. However, after the discovery, his wife, the goddess Hera, begins to suspect yet another betrayal. One of her sons, Apollo, covers for him, and they manage to fool Hera. Apollo tells Heron's mother that he was yet another bastard, telling her that she was expecting a son from Zeus. Worried about what to do, she prays to Zeus to help her, but Hera, disguised as a raven, hears her words, discovering that she really was being cheated once again, and decides to take revenge through the help of the Aneris, who made the king have dreams where his wife would have twins, and one of them would not be his. Which brings us back to the day of the birth, where the king understands that he had been betrayed by Zeus. Furious, he tries to throw little Heron to his death, but his mother protects him and kills her husband. The guards are in shock and realize that now the heir to the throne was Heron's brother. Zeus protects his beloved and his son by taking them away, leaving the other baby in the hands of the servant girl. And so they ended up in that city where Zeus covered the whole sky so that Hera would not find them. She explains that she thought his brother would become a king, but unfortunately, he was killed by his uncle who coveted the crown. Heron gets angry, saying that old Elijah had done much more for them than his father, and finds out that he was Zeus, but that doesn't lessen his anger and calls his father a coward for allowing them to live that way. While remembering the old man realizing how everything had been a lie, he finds the sword that Zeus had made for him, and very angry, he throws it away, which is stuck in a rock. In the forest, Alexia analyzes the map, but can't decipher it when several demons disguised as people appear and kill all the soldiers, with only Alexia escaping with the map. The demon then releases a three-headed dog to go after her. Meanwhile, Zeus goes after his son, revealing his true form, and asks for forgiveness for everything he has done, but Heron is still angry with him, causing Zeus to return to heaven. Just then, Alexia appears wounded, running away from the three-headed dog. Meanwhile, on Olympus, Zeus arrives, accusing Ares of having betrayed him, since he was the only one who knew about his cover on Earth. But Hera appears, revealing that she knew about his mistress all along. She questions that she was always faithful to him while he arranged many affairs, but realizes that Zeus really loved Heron's mother, which makes her even more jealous and threatens to kill the poor woman. Zeus becomes enraged and says that her life would be left in the hands of fate. In the middle of the couple's fight, Hermes, one of Zeus' bastard sons, shows up warning that Heron was in danger. The boy was looking everywhere for his mother while running away together with Alexia when they are caught by the three-headed dog that attacks them. Heron manages to pin one of the heads to the ground with a stick, but the demon army appears, forcing them to run back. At Zeus' request, the clouds of the city finally disappear, leaving all the residents of the city in sight of the gods, which worries Heron's mother, and rightly so because her son was being chased by a band of demons. But he is smart and delays some of them with a trap, making the two of them reach the city safely. Alexia warns everyone to leave the town immediately, and Heron begins to look for his mother, but the leader of the demons called Seraphim attacks him with his spear. Luckily, his father is watching everything from the sky and helps the boy by warning him about the attack and asks him to flee, but he tries to confront the demon, which is clearly much stronger than he is. So, Heron decides that it's really best to flee and sets everything on fire to escape. Everyone runs for cover to the mines, but Seraphim prevents them from getting through, and Alexia flees into the forest with the map, leaving a piece of cloth behind. Seraphim explains to the people that he was after Alexia. One of them decides to help the demon, but upon introducing himself, Seraphim discovers that he was related to King Acrisius, who had caused his scar, and breaks the man in half. The demons follow Alexia's scent into the forest, but Zeus decides to help by hiding her among the flowers. Hera decides the two could play that game and makes the girl's piece of cloth fly to where Heron's mother was. But before Zeus could do anything, Hera appears with other gods reminding him that the woman's life was in the hands of fate, and they all support her since that was the law. Meanwhile, downstairs, Seraphim questions his mother about where Alexia was, but she knew nothing and he thinks she was lying. She begins to pray to Zeus, but no help appears. However, before Seraphim kills her, Heron arrives and begins to fight the demons, but is wounded by the leader who throws his spear causing him to fall right on top of his mother. Heron screams in despair, making Zeus finally realize what had happened, but it was too late. His beloved was dead and his son, being taken prisoner by the demons. Later, Alexia comes out of her hiding place and sees everyone in the city dead and old Zeus, crying over the death of his beloved. Hermes then appears to take her to the other side and after giving them a moment, leaves with his spirit. They quickly arrive at the Passage of Souls, where there were some spirits that could not cross over. A shadowy creature appears and Hermes introduces Heron's mother, a much-loved and noble queen, who deserved to be treated well, otherwise Zeus would avenge her. Before her departure, he asks if she would like to say goodbye to anyone. Then she appears to Heron, asking him to be strong, for there were fates worse than death. The boy tries to reach her when he notices his hand almost being devoured by the dog, which now has only 2 heads. He realizes that he was trapped with 2 men, Evios and Kofi, being led away by demons. Meanwhile, Alexia was being chased by Seraphim, who ends up in a cave, where she is surrounded by the demon. However, she reveals that it was actually not Alexia but Hera who was luring him to a place where the gods could not see her. After forcing him to kneel, she shows him his story. He was Heron's brother, who, after the confusion at his birth, his uncle threw him into the ocean to die so that he could inherit the throne in his place. But he was saved by the maid who decided to raise him as a son. After saying goodbye to her sister, she hid in the forest and prayed to the gods for help, when a ferocious bear appeared. But Hera heard her prayers and tamed the animal, which was a mother giving milk, and she takes the opportunity to feed the baby. And so, time passed with Seraphim growing up among the animals like Mowgli, but together with his adoptive mother. Until one day, soldiers showed up looking for the boy. They had taken his mother's sister prisoner, and after killing her, they pressured the poor mother to hand over the boy, until Seraphim hit the man with an arrow. With the help of the bears, he tries to save her, but unfortunately, he can't and is wounded, ending up with a dead mother and a scar on his face. But just as he was about to die, another bear appears and saves him. Time passes, and he seeks revenge by going into town, catching his mother's killer off guard, and killing him. He then flees from the soldiers, falling into the ocean that leads him to the giant's body, and as he touches the creature, he begins to be corrupted by its power, which asks him to eat its flesh and thus become a demon. Since then, he has been hunting the nobles in an attempt to avenge his uncle, but the goddess explains that it wasn't really his fault that everything happened to him, but Zeus' fault, who had taken his biological mother away and was now dead, murdered by his own son. Seraphim then remembers her and is disgusted to remember that she prayed for Zeus' help at her end, who did nothing. Meanwhile, Alexia was arriving in the city of the centaurs to meet her old friend, their leader, who was very wise and could decipher the map of the demons. There, he unravels it, discovering that it was a star map. However, just as she knew that he would be able to decipher the map, her enemy also knew and had arrived earlier and threatened the centaurs, forcing the leader to hand Alexia over. She fights with the demons, tearing the arm off one of them. But before Seraphim can kill her, the centaur protects her and hands the map to the demon, remembering that their deal was that he would hand over the map but Alexia would stay safe with him. However, a creature of darkness does not keep his word, and Seraphim threatens his people again if he does not let Alexia go with them as a prisoner, leaving the centaur with no choice. At the same time, Heron is taken to a ship where he discovers that Kofi was a skilled fighter and devises an escape plan. Meanwhile, Hera tells Seraphim about the sword Zeus made for Heron, a sword capable of cutting through any material, even one made by the gods, that could destroy Talos, the keeper of the giant souls. But first, she asks him to kill the owner of the sword, Heron. He questions why he should obey, but she says that in exchange for all this, she would tell him where his uncle was so that he could finally get his revenge. And so, Seraphim sets off in search of the sword, finding it in the stone. And for those who thought it would be like King Arthur were mistaken because he manages to get the sword out with ease and still test his skills. Back on the ship, Heron's plan goes into action. Evios and Kofi ask the demon on guard for permission to go to the bathroom, and they simulate a fight to sneak up on the creature and steal the key to the handcuffs. After freeing themselves, they fight with the demons on the bottom of the ship and release the key to the other prisoners. Together they climb to the top and manage to take over the ship while Alexia, who is a prisoner, watches them from the edge of the beach. At the Olympus, Hermes goes to his father and tells him that he was collecting the soul of a dead demon when he saw Hera talking to Seraphim, and although he couldn't hear what they were saying, he knew she was up to something. At that moment, Zeus sees Seraphim from the sky coming up to the ship and attacking Heron with his sword. To protect his son, Zeus begins to strike the ocean with several bolts of lightning, which destroys the ship but manages to stop the demon. But this alerts everyone, including the other gods who are not at all happy, including his brother Poseidon. The people flee the beach because no one is crazy enough to stay where there are demons and lightning falling like crazy. Alexia helps Heron get out of the sea when old Zeus, in disguise, shows up, and Alexia tells Heron that he had buried her mother, but the boy is still furious with him, denying his help. Zeus explains that Heron was the key to this war. He gives Alexia instructions that she should go with Evios and Kofi to Melidone, where she would find the giant's body to burn its remains, explaining that this would make the demons fall. Alexia says that they no longer had the map to locate the body, but the old man assures her that the map would come to her at the right time. He also convinces the two smugglers to go on the journey, reminding them that they had done a lot of wrong and this was their chance to regain their honor. To convince Heron, he explains that he could help him kill Seraphim, his mother's murderer, and more. Then he whistles, calling a griffin, and after saying goodbye to Alexia, he climbs on the animal, which flies off. Meanwhile, Seraphim, tired of being manipulated, tries to hit Hera, probably thinking she was weaker in bird form, but he couldn't be more wrong. This only infuriates her, and she clubs him away, to remind him that she is much stronger than him. Seraphim questions how she asks him to kill a man who was protected by Zeus, but she manipulates him again by reminding him that he would have his revenge in the giant souls. Heron arrives at Olympus, where his father was already waiting for him. But this infuriates all the gods, who find it daring to have a mortal in their land, and only his other bastard brothers are receptive. Then the angry goddess appears, and Zeus tries to make peace, asking forgiveness and swearing allegiance, to put an end to the war between them. But Hera says she would accept his apology on one condition: Heron's head. This makes the boy tense, but his father says that this would not be negotiable. However, this causes the war between the couple to continue, and most of the gods support Hera. Zeus then warns Poseidon, saying that only a fool would trust a woman like that. But he retorts, saying that really only a fool would anger her. Zeus takes Heron to train in the arena, explaining that even though not all demigods have divine powers, he believed the boy did. And then Zeus animates a giant automaton who starts beating the crap out of him, as Heron was not fighting properly, being blinded by hatred and anger. Zeus tries to show him that he was fighting in the wrong way, but he doesn't show himself very fatherly. Another god who was watching the training says this to him, explaining that what the boy needed was a father. Zeus, regretful, goes to Heron to apologize, saying that although this was not an excuse, he had not had a loving father. And so, although he had a bunch of kids, literally being the rascal of Olympus, he didn't know how to be a father. But back in training, Heron is still blind with rage and can't fight. Zeus interrupts the fight, saying that if he can't get rid of his anger, he can't win. Heron then questions how he could let his mother die, and he explains that even he was sometimes powerless. Heron then asks how he could let Seraphim live, and Zeus says that his mother would not want him to kill him, explaining to the young man that the demon was his half-brother, leaving the boy in shock. After all, anyone would be like this to find out that they have a demon brother who killed their mother. In the forest, Alexia and her new soldiers, along with Evios and Kofi, are walking towards Melitone when we notice that someone was following her. But the girl, not being a fool, realizes this and goes to the subject, discovering that it was the centaur who hands her a map. He really was smart and had made a copy of the map with his paws. The wise man also explains that the territory of the dead is the best way to get to the giant's body because it was not guarded by demons. In Heron's training, he finally manages to defeat the giant creature when Hermes appears, saying that Hera and the other gods have fled to the underworld. And although Hades remains neutral, war between the gods was inevitable. At this time, a creepy spider appears on Heron's arm, and Hermes realizes that the Moiras, who control destiny, were calling him. They then go there, where the Moiras explain to him that fate and free will coexist together, and that the thread of his life showed two paths, and it was up to him to choose which one to follow. After they explain that his friends would die by going to the giant's body, he decides to go save them instead of training to win the war. Later, Zeus was taking a relaxing bath when he is caught by Seraphim, who manages to trap him, killing him with Hera's help. But this was only an illusion caused by one of the Aneris. In fact, Seraphim was really with Zeus ready to attack him. But unlike the vision, Zeus proves to be much more powerful than the demon. Although Seraphim did all that, Zeus shows understanding, apologizing for thinking he would be better off in the palace and for everything he caused him. He explains that since he felt responsible for the events of his life, he was always there to help him. And then we see that different from what Hera had told him, the bear that had almost devoured him as a baby had actually been sent by her and Zeus. They had calmed the beast so that he could feed, and when he was about to die by his uncle's men, he had turned into a bear, saving his life. Zeus also tells that Hera manipulated him into killing his mother, since she liked the idea of her dying at the hands of her son. Seraphim questions why he should believe him, and to prove that he was telling the truth, Zeus gives him a coin showing the location of his uncle, proving that, unlike Hera, he had no interest in manipulating him to get something. And so, Seraphim goes in search of his long-awaited revenge. Finally, Alexia and the others arrive in the territory of the dead, where the gods defeated the giants, poisoning the entire place with the creature's blood. The centaur explains that once they cross the mist, there is no turning back. They would have to pass through it quickly, but without running, or stopping, or looking back, or they would die. Alexia thanks him for his instructions and tells her friend to go home, since his people need him. And so, they all set off, leaving the centaur behind. As soon as they arrive in the mist, all their vision is blocked, but Kofi quickly pulls his friend close to him so that they would not be separated. They start walking and encounter several demons. Kofi goes to run, but Evios stops him, realizing that it was an illusion. It was their worst fear, since they were tormented by their past where they smuggled parts of the giant to some people. We realized that the place was bewitched and made people's greatest fears appear, and unfortunately, some fell for the trick and died, but others managed to realize that it was an illusion and passed. Alexia ends up seeing her mother who had died and struggles to resist the illusion, when her father appears saying that she was guilty for her death. But fortunately, Alexia resists and goes on her way. The survivors then arrive at the great temple when a minotaur appears at the door. Doubting if it was just another illusion, Evios throws a rock at the creature, seeing that it was real when Heron appears and takes a shot at the minotaur. Meanwhile, Seraphim arrives at the place where his uncle was, who says he has been waiting for this moment. And then the demon begins his revenge, attacking the king without mercy, with hate and fury. Back at the temple, The gang goes on until they reach the map, but they don't find the giant's body since Seraphim had removed it from the place and was waiting for them with his army. Seraphim then asks if Haran had not grown tired of the gods who destroyed his life, asking him to join them to avenge his mother's death. But Haran refuses his brother's proposal, and then a battle breaks out, and Haran sends everyone running, fleeing from the cave just before everything collapses. But only he and his friends manage to survive, and with the help of Haran's new bug, they all escape. Before Seraphim can go after them, Hera appears, reminding him that he should be going after the giant's urn of souls. Then Hera, who is no fool, realizes that she was being followed by Hermes and knocks him down. His brother arrives to try to help but is also defeated and thrown into the sea. Seraphim, obeying Hera, goes in search of the giant's souls, which were protected by the automaton called Tanos. Since he was much stronger and bigger, Seraphim wounds him with his sword and at the first opportunity, flees from there. And with the job done, Hera takes the urn and releases the giant's souls. As the giants come back to life, Hermes appears to Zeus, attacking his neck, revealing herself to be Hera in disguise. The evil goddess bursts out laughing, leaving her bleeding ex-husband on the ground. After all the giants return, one of them tries to attack Hera, but she shows that she had literally control of their souls in the palm of her hand. So, she asks them to kill Zeus in exchange for them ruling the ocean. This makes Poseidon angry, and he changes sides immediately, since his precious ocean was at stake. Zeus heals himself with his divine powers and devises a plan to capture the urn back, deciding that the best thing was to send Haran on this mission since Hera would never expect it. Everyone prepares for war, but if the battle against the giants years ago was hard enough to win, imagine now with most of the gods together with the giants and the demon army. After Haran takes a few arrows from the gods, the giants begin to attack Olympus, and the war begins. And so, Haran and the other mortals set out on a mission to rescue the urn, while Zeus, along with his brother, try to prevent Olympus from being taken over, but the revenge-crazed goddess knocks him down. After much searching, Haran finds the urn, protected by Hera's ravens, and struggles to get to it. His father then strikes Hera, breaking the crow's spell, and Haran runs to get the urn while Seraphim also runs to him. Zeus tries to get Hera to give up before Olympus is destroyed, and the giants betray her, but she doesn't listen. When the giants catch her taking the opportunity to kill her, Zeus saves her and, in doing so, ends up dead, with Hera regretfully crying at the death of her beloved. After Seraphim kills the griffin, knocking Haran out, he takes advantage of Hera's moment of sadness to attack her but, wounded, she manages to escape with her ravens, leaving her hand with the bracelet that controlled the urn behind. Seraphim shows the urn to the giants, who realize that they were free, and so things get ugly for the gods. However, no one told them to unite with their enemies. But the mortals arrive, saving the day and recovering the urn, showing that they could do much more than the gods themselves. After Alexia kills the Seraphim bug, they all fall out and a war between the siblings begins, with Haran angered by the death of his father, with his memories of him tormenting him. However, blinded by rage, he ends up being caught and ends up with the demon's spear almost catching him, struggling not to be hit. But he remembers what his father taught him and calms down, analyzing the situation, and to Seraphim's surprise, he allows himself to be hit by the spear, causing it to go through him and Seraphim. With both injured, Haran finally awakens his divine powers by killing the demon and uses his arm to control the urn and guard the giant's souls, ending the war. In hell, Seraphim meets Hades, who tells him that he was waiting for him but that he could save him from the fate that awaited him if he would agree to do some work for him, causing him to cry out in despair as, once again, he was in the hands of a god. Days pass, and Haran wakes up on Olympus with one of his brothers by his side. Everyone was helping to rebuild the place, and he sees a statue of his father, Zeus, that makes him emotional. And so, the story ends with Haran being one of the gods of Olympus. If you want to see more anime videos, then make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We appreciate your support.